The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the Online Learning Center Refresher. I'm Aviva Gutnick, and I so appreciate you choosing to spend time learning about the Online Learning Center, or OLC, today. Our purpose here today is to walk you through the OLC so you'll feel confident about using it with your students. In our 40 minutes together, we're going to learn exactly what the OLC is and how it works, how it can benefit learners, the mechanics of getting set up in the OLC, setting up a school, adding teachers, registering students, setting up a class, and adding software. We'll look at two digital pieces of software that are integral to their curriculum success, Hebrew and Harmony and Shalom Hebrew. Then we'll open it up for questions. If you have questions before we get to the end of our time together, you can use the questions tab on the control panel. Are there any questions before we get started? Okay. So let's go over exactly what is the OLC. The OLC is your school's own private, secure space on the Behrman House website. Think of it in the context of a condominium. The OLC is a big virtual building, and we give you the keys for free to your own private space within that building. You can furnish your space with whatever digital materials you choose, either the Behrman House digital learning software that's designed for it, or documents and links that you prepare yourself, like Word docs or YouTube videos or any other format. The only people allowed in your space are the ones that you invite in or give keys to, like teachers and students. You should know, too, that the OLC complies with all federal regulations on child safety, so you can be sure that it's a safe and private space. That's the OLC in a nutshell. Let's move on to how it can benefit learners. So why would you want your students using the OLC? Well, for one, it's the tool that provides access to digital materials. So kids can do things like practice Hebrew at their own pace, on their own time, or whenever they have a few spare moments. It extends the learning. It gives kids more opportunities for extra practice. It also allows them to encounter other kinds of content, like videos, and make their own meaning from it. The OLC also has an opportunity to build community after school hours by commenting in their OLC class and sharing ideas. The OLC is entering its 5th year, and just this year alone, more than 600 teachers and 3,500 students have logged in to teach and learn online. Are there any questions so far about generally what the OLC is? You can use your question box at any time. The OLC lives at the Behrman House homepage, www.behrmanhouse.com. From there, you'll be able to log in. If you're an educational director, this is what your school's homepage will look like. From here, you can add teachers and students to your school. You can also create, fill, and view classes. So on the top left of your page, there's information that you can input about your synagogue and your school. You can post school-wide news for everyone to see. On the top right is you, the educational director. Blue tabs will list all the classes. On the left side of the page is a list of all the teachers in your school, and further down you could scroll and see a list of all the students in your school. Each user sees a similar homepage. So if I were a teacher, it would look similar in that I'd see the information about my school. In the center, I would see any school-wide news. I would have me, a picture of myself, the teacher, and I would have in the blue tabs any classes that I am teaching. Students also have a similar view in terms of school-wide news, synagogue information. They could put a picture of themselves there if they would like. And in the blue are the list of classes that they are enrolled in. Most likely just one, but it's possible they would be in a second class as well. Okay, so that's what the OLC looks like. Let's look at the mechanics of how to get set up. First, everyone who uses the OLC needs an account. It's very important to make sure that you have an online account at behrmanhouse.com. Then step 2 is for you to contact us. We will authorize your account so that you can begin setting up your school. You should know that there can be only one educational director per OLC school. And I will talk more about that when we get to questions, because I am sure that they will come up. But if you have any questions about anything I've said so far, please don't hesitate to type them in. Let's assume that you got set up in the OLC, your school has been authorized. Then we will look briefly at the next steps: adding teachers, registering students, and creating classes and adding software. We're going to go through those one at a time briefly. So you have a school. Now you need to fill it with teachers. On the left side of your OLC homepage, you will see a green button labeled Add Teacher. That takes you to a screen labeled Add New Teacher to My Synagogue. In the pink box, you would enter a teacher's email address, double check for typos, of course, and then you would click Add Teacher. You can do this for each teacher that you would like to add to your school. Then you can compose a note, a message, telling them to respond to the email invitation that they'll be receiving to join the OLC. The process is not complete until you click the green button labeled Send Invitation. That sends the note to all the teachers that you have added in step 1. You can do it one at a time. You can do several teachers at once, adding them in to Add Teacher, and when you send invitation, it sends it out to that group. You can check on the status of an invitation to see if your teachers have seen it or responded by clicking on the green View Invitations button in that teachers window on your OLC homepage. If a teacher tells you that they did not receive an invitation to join the OLC or they misplaced it, that's okay. They can log into their behrmanhouse.com account and they'll see an option to view their invitations on the left side panel here. They can just simply accept it from there, clicking the green Click to Accept button. So we're set up in the school. We've added teachers. Now it's time to fill that school with students, what the OLC calls members. In order for the OLC to recognize each student individually, the system needs a unique way to identify each student. We do that by using an email address or an email lookalike. So two students, even if they're siblings, they can't share an email address because they'll wind up overwriting each other's work. And of course, we don't want that. You can reassure parents that we never, ever use student email addresses for any purpose outside the OLC. We don't collect them, we don't send Behrman House email to them, and we certainly don't allow others to do so. The OLC has a kid-safe seal verifying that it complies with federal regulations about online privacy. I see that someone asked a question about the teachers. Do they need an account before a director sends an invitation? The teachers do need to have an account in behrmanhouse.com in order to be authorized to use the OLC. Everyone needs to be in the system, teachers, students, and the educational director. So back to registering students in the OLC. On the main page, there's a green button that says Create Members. You would click that. And that will take you to a page that gives you two options for adding students, who we call members. Option 1, you can enter students' information one at a time using an email address, first name, last name. If a student does not have an actual email address, you can make one up as long as it follows the conventional email format with an and symbol and a dot. So it could be a real email address, as you see down here, gutnick@gmail.com, or it could be a lookalike, literally something@something.com. Both would work. You could repeat for each student that you want to add to your school. And as you add student names, you click this green Create Account button, and each student's information appears as a list at the bottom of the page. Another option, if you don't want to do that one at a time, because it can be time consuming if you have a lot of students, is you can add students in a group using an Excel spreadsheet. You would click this green button labeled Bulk Upload if you choose to do that group loading. You would follow the on-screen directions to add your students' information. And it's the same information that we ask for if you do it individually: an email address, a first name, and a last name. If you don't have student information in an Excel file, many schools do, that's how they keep track of all their students, but if you don't, we have a template on the page that you can download and use. After you finish creating the accounts, you can print out login names and temporary passwords to give to each student. You can select students individually using checkboxes, or you can choose them all at once. One nice thing that you can do is you can print out individual sheets for each student to log in. They can change their passwords and they can access their OLC account information. So you can give them that information so they can get started. Any questions about the registering students before we move on to sorting students into classes? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so you've added your teachers to the school, you've added students to your school. Now let's sort the students into classes. To do that, on your OLC homepage, you click the button, the green button labeled Add New Classroom. You'll see a screen called Create New Class. You'll enter the name of the new class. You could call it 3rd grade Hebrew or Maura Shelley's 4th grade class, whatever you want to call it in this first box here. The screen asks you to choose the learning software for this class. If you buy your school materials online through our website, you need to make sure that the digital licenses that you purchase for use in the OLC space are purchased using your OLC Education Director's account. This ensures that the licenses get credited to the correct account and that they're available in the OLC school to assign to students and teachers. So you would select the learning software that the class will be using. And as you see here on the screen, this is a list of the digital software that I have purchased for my class. So these are my options that I could add to this class. And in parentheses, you'll see the number of licenses that I have available that I have purchased for this class. It's important that you know that the license does not pass to students until students are added to a class. That's when the clock starts. So for example, if I am buying the materials in May, but the students aren't going to be using it until September, the clock on that license doesn't start until I've added students to the class. Maybe that's in August, maybe that's in September. But if I do it in May, that's when the clock would start. So you can choose, you've entered the name of the class, I've chosen the software that's going with the class. Then you will be able to scroll down and see a list of all the students in your school and select who's going to be in that class. Further down the screen, you can also scroll down and see which teacher or teachers you want to add to the class. Only teachers who have accepted your invitation to join the OLC can be added to a class. If you don't add a teacher, it will default to you as the educational director. That's who will be automatically added as the teacher. Licenses. I did mention the clocks and licenses. Different software is valid for different amounts of time. So some licenses are 12 months and some licenses are 15 months. It depends on the particular software that you are using. After you have created the class and chosen which students to put in that class and assigned a teacher to that class, there's a green Create Class button at the bottom of the screen. You click that and then your new class will appear in the Online Learning Center. Are there any questions about this section? We had a question about the passwords that we talked about earlier when you're adding students to a class, to the school. You can, if you want to give the passwords to students, one simple way to do it, you don't have to do it this way, but one simple way is to simply print out the passwords, and you can give little strips of paper to the students. The computer generates the password, the login information for students. You can print it out and give it to students so that they have it. It generates a temporary password, and students can go in and change the password to something that they choose, hopefully something that will be easy for them to remember. Okay, let's move on. So clearly this is an introduction to the OLC. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you about the mechanics of the OLC and how to get set up in there. Everything that we've talked about today is on our webpage in the OLC section. So on the behrmanhouse.com webpage, there is a, under the Online Learning Center, there's a drop-down menu, and you can see a list of FAQs about the OLC. There's also a downloadable PDF guide, how-to guide for education directors. It's step-by-step, essentially all the screenshots that I showed you before, and that can help you walk through the process if you need some guidance. So next, we're going to move on to look at two digital applications that I want to show you and how they work with the OLC. As textbooks are moving into a more digital age, teachers are relying on the Online Learning Center more and more. And this is especially true for two programs whose digital pieces are integral to their curriculum success, and that's Shalom Hebrew and Hebrew and Harmony. Hebrew and Harmony is our new Hebrew curriculum for 4th through 6th graders to learn prayer through music. The goals of Hebrew and Harmony are to develop an emotional and a spiritual engagement with prayer. We also want students to become prayer literate through lots of different ways, such as music, movement, art, mindfulness, and digital learning. And also, another goal is for students to experience the joy of communal prayer. The heart of Hebrew and Harmony is music. Hebrew and Harmony program features music from dozens of today's top Jewish musicians, including Rick Recht, Naomi Less, Dan Nichols, Ellen Allard, just to name a few. And there actually will be more coming next year, more than the 50 or so here that you see on the screen. Hebrew and Harmony consists of 22 individual prayers, from home observance and simple opening prayers through the Torah service. There are 3 essential components to each prayer. There is a 16-page student booklet. There are 3 fully scripted lessons for teachers and techniques for teaching them in a binder called the Curriculum Core. And there's a digital companion, which is what we're going to focus on today. In the Hebrew and Harmony Digital Companion, there are 5 sections. We're going to look at each one of them briefly. Whatever section you choose out of those 5, the first thing that you'll see is a prompt to choose your prayer. If there's a denominational variation, you can choose your version. This one says conservative. You can edit it and choose another variation depending on the prayer that you're selecting. Okay, so in the Hebrew and Harmony Digital Companion, this section, which is the center island here, is called the Learn section. This really serves as the introduction to a prayer. Each prayer has its own digital companion. So the introduction for this particular prayer, Lecha Dodi, features the words of the prayer. There are videos, 1 to 3 videos depending on the prayer, featuring Noah Aronson and Eliana Light, who are the co-hosts of the Hebrew and Harmony program. And the videos are a way to help students understand the essence of the prayer, focus on a particular section of the prayer, and really begin to engage with the prayer. The practice section of the Hebrew and Harmony Digital Companion gives students a chance to hear the prayer read by someone with an Israeli accent and also someone with an American accent. They can select that here. They can practice reading the prayer one word at a time, and it highlights as they go along. There's a green record button at the bottom. They can record themselves reading the prayer, and then they can click me and hear themselves as it plays back. Now these recordings can also be sent to teachers, so the teachers can hear the recordings and offer an assessment on that. The Digital Companion also has a fun game called the Melody Game, and what this does is it takes some key words and some opening words of each prayer, and it breaks them down into syllables, and students have to connect syllables and form them into words. And as they do that, they drag the little syllables around, and if they connect, it forms into a matzah that goes through this funnel, turns into a big matzah ball, plops into the soup. It's very cute. The Quiz It section of Hebrew and Harmony is a fun self-assessment. There are 8 questions. They're all multiple choice about students' understanding of the prayer that they've learned. And in the Explore section of Hebrew and Harmony, gives students a chance to have a personalized prayer page. There are emojis that they could add to the page. They can add album covers that go with all the music for the prayer, and they can also listen to the music for each prayer in this section. That's the Hebrew and Harmony Digital Companion in short. Are there any questions about this program before I show you Shalom Hebrew OLC version? Okay, you can also be thinking about your questions and type them in, and I will get to them at the question wrap-up section at the end as well. Shalom Hebrew OLC Edition is a digital primer that students can access from laptops, smartphones, or tablets to learn decoding. It follows the structure, the organization, and the pedagogy of the textbooks in the Shalom Uvracha series. When you open the app, it looks like this. The Lessons section introduces Hebrew letters, vowels, and keywords, and it reinforces them with reading practices and interactive exercises. Student work is automatically recorded to a central database where teachers can monitor progress and listen to the student audio recordings of those practices. There are also 5 games in the game section for kids to play. They're styled like video games in that there are different levels. You'll see here these little green circles say level 1, and I believe it goes up to 3. There's levels 1, 2, and 3 for each of the games. The games have scoring, so it's fun for the kids. Shalom Hebrew is available on all devices, so kids can use it in the car, they can use it at home, wherever they want, whenever they want. Are there any questions about Shalom Hebrew? Okay. What I'd like to do is look at how these 2 programs are related to the OLC. So let's say little Daniel Gutnick wants to use Shalom Hebrew in his class. He's all set up. Let's review all the steps that we took to get here. His school is in the OLC. His teacher has been added to the school. He was added to the school, and he was put into a class that's using the Shalom Hebrew software. That links the license to each child. So now Daniel has a license. The OLC is the glue that holds it all together. You need the OLC to set it all up, but the students aren't tethered to it. So now Daniel has a few options for how to use the software. Kids can download for free from the App Store the Shalom Hebrew or the Hebrew and Harmony. They can log in using their Behrman House credentials, their email and their password. They only have to do that once, and it automatically recognizes them. That's why it's important to set it up in the OLC. It gives the OLC all the information it needs. Students can also access the apps from the class page in the OLC. So they would log into their OLC class, and at the top left, there is a green play button. They can launch it from here if they're online and play it, and the software launches right from there. A third way they can access the software is from the Behrman House homepage. They don't have to log into the OLC to use it. Right from their homepage, right at the top where it says My Account, they would click that, and then on the left there's a drop-down menu, and there's an option that says My Software. It would list all the software that they have a license to, and they can click play, and it just launches from there. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. I'm going to open it up for questions, and let me know if there's anything that we've covered today, from what is the OLC, how does it work, how do I get set up, to the Hebrew and Harmony or Shalom Hebrew programs that I talked about. So as you're thinking about questions, let me review some of the questions that we typically get. One of the common sources of confusions regarding ordering materials and email accounts and all that. So I want to let you know that it's really important that whatever email you use to set up the school in the OLC must be the same one that you use to buy the digital materials. That's what connects the purchase with that OLC class. So it doesn't automatically know who you are. You have to use the same email that the school was set up with. Are there any other questions that I can help answer for you today? The Hebrew and Harmony app is available on, it's called a native app on iOS devices, which is iPads, iPhones, and things like that. On Android devices, it is web only currently, meaning that they can play it through their class OLC page, or through the web. We have been recording today's webinar, and it will be available within the next 24 hours. We're going to be posting it on our website, and afterward, if you would like a copy, an audio recording of today's session, you can send me an email at my address here, aviva@behrmanhouse.com, and I will be happy to send you the link. We are always happy to help you. I am happy to help you. We have our customer support team at customersupport@behrmanhouse.com. We are always happy to help and chat with you and help you work through any issues or questions you may be having with the OLC. It's a really great service, and schools have been using it really well in lots of different ways for a number of years, and so I hope that you found today's session helpful. If there are not any other questions, then I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope this was helpful for you, and if there aren't any other questions, then I hope you won't mind if we wrap up early. So thanks once again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.